Sparta. The name still echoes through history. It speaks of unmatched courage, of harsh discipline. We picture stern warriors clad in crimson, their shields gleaming, their spears ready. For centuries, Sparta dominated Greece. They were a byword for military might, a society built entirely for war. Their reputation was legendary, their power immense. Yet this formidable power eventually crumbled. It did not happen overnight in one swift blow. Instead, Sparta slowly faded, its strength drained away. How could such a mighty state collapse? This question has puzzled historians for ages. The reasons are complex, hidden beneath the surface. It was not just defeat in battle that undid them. A deeper internal decay was at work. Many focus on Sparta's famous warriors. They remember the glorious last stand at Thermopylae, or their victory in the long Peloponnesian War. These tales paint a picture of invincibility. But this is only part of Sparta's story. The untold story is one of internal fragility, of a society that could not adapt, a system that slowly choked itself. In this exploration, we will delve deeper. We will look beyond the battlefield heroics. We uncover the hidden cracks in Sparta's foundations, the shrinking number of true Spartan citizens, the dangerous reliance on an oppressed population, the economic stagnation and military disasters, and the political blindness that sealed its fate. Join me as we uncover why Sparta really collapsed. To understand Sparta, we must first understand its citizens. The Spartiates, or equals, were the elite. They were the warriors, the landowners, the rulers. Their entire lives were dedicated to the state. From birth, they were trained to be soldiers, to be disciplined, tough, and unquestioningly loyal. This small group held all the power, but their numbers were always precariously small. War was Sparta's lifeblood, but it came at a cost. Generations of conflict took a heavy toll. The Peloponnesian War against Athens was long and brutal. Many Spartiates died in its countless battles. Other wars, big and small, followed. Each conflict thinned the ranks of citizen soldiers. Fewer and fewer men returned to their homes. The pool of warriors was constantly being drained. Spartan laws about land and inheritance made things worse. To be a citizen, a Spartiate needed a minimum amount of land. This land, a kleros, was meant to support him. But over time, land became concentrated. Wealthy families amassed larger estates. Poorer families lost their land and thus their citizenship. Marriage practices also led to heiresses controlling land. This reduced the number of plots available for men. The rules for citizenship were incredibly strict. There was no easy way to become a Spartiate. If you were not born into the elite, you were out. Even those born Spartiate could lose their status. Cowardice in battle or failure in the agoge, the training, or, as we've seen, losing their land. This rigid system prevented new blood from joining. The number of equals shrank year after year fatally. Sparta's entire society rested on a terrifying secret. This secret was the helots. They were a subjugated people, not quite slaves, but serfs. Bound to the land, they worked it for their Spartan masters. The Spartiates themselves did no manual labor. They were full-time soldiers thanks to helot toil. The food, the resources, all came from these helots. Their lives were ones of hardship and constant fear. The helots vastly outnumbered their Spartan overlords, some estimate by as much as 10 to 1. This created an atmosphere of permanent tension. Sparta lived in constant fear of a helot uprising. This fear shaped much of Spartan society. The brutal cryptia, the secret police, terrorized the helots. Young Spartans were sent out to kill any helot deemed a threat. It was a system built on violence and oppression, and the helots did revolt many times. These uprisings were bloody and difficult to suppress. They diverted Spartan military strength inwards. Spartan warriors, needed for external wars, were kept home to police their own resentful workforce. The Great Earthquake of 464 BC triggered a massive revolt. It nearly brought Sparta to its knees. This internal enemy was a constant drain, a festering wound. Sparta's economy was deliberately designed to be static. The legendary lawgiver Lycurgus supposedly banned gold and silver. He promoted austerity, simplicity, and equality among Spartiates. But this system resisted any form of economic development. There was little trade, no industry to speak of. Wealth came from land and the helots who worked it. This inflexibility made Sparta vulnerable. When other states were innovating, Sparta stagnated, reliant on a system of terror. For centuries, the Spartan hoplite was the king of the battlefield. Their red cloaks and long hair were symbols of terror. The Spartan phalanx seemed an unbreakable wall of bronze and courage. Training from childhood in the brutal agoge produced unmatched soldiers. Victories at Plataea and in the Peloponnesian War cemented their fame. Sparta was the supreme land power in Greece. No one dared to challenge them head-on. Their military prowess was the bedrock of their dominance. But then came the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BC. It was a day that shattered Sparta's world. The Thebans, led by the brilliant Epaminondas, faced them. Epaminondas used innovative tactics. He strengthened one wing of his phalanx massively. This so-called oblique order smashed into the Spartan right. The elite Theban sacred band led the charge. The Spartans, caught by surprise, were overwhelmed. The defeat at Leuctra was catastrophic. Hundreds of vital Spartiate citizens lay dead. King Cleombrotus I himself was among the slain. This single battle wiped out a huge portion of Sparta's warrior class. More than the loss of men, it was the myth that died. The myth of Spartan invincibility was broken. Suddenly Sparta looked vulnerable. Their enemies were emboldened, their allies wavered. Worse was to follow Leuctra. Epaminondas marched into the Peloponnese. He invaded Laconia, Spartan home territory itself. And crucially, he liberated Messenia. The Messenians had been helots for centuries. Their land was the main source of Sparta's wealth. Losing Messenia was an economic and demographic disaster. Sparta never truly recovered from these blows. Its military edge was gone. Sparta's political system was ancient and complex. It had two kings, not one, from different royal families. A council of elders, the Gerousia, held great influence. 5 ephors, elected annually, acted as powerful magistrates, and an assembly of all Spartiate citizens had the final say. This system was designed for stability, for continuity. It was meant to preserve the Lycurgan way of life, but it proved incredibly resistant to necessary change. The world around Sparta was changing rapidly. New military tactics, economic ideas, and political alliances were emerging. But Sparta clung desperately to its past. The fear of upsetting the established order was immense. Powerful conservative factions resisted any innovation. They believed any deviation from Lycurgus's laws would weaken Sparta. This rigid mindset prevented adaptation. The very system designed to protect Sparta now stifled it. There were attempts at reform, brave but doomed. In the 3rd century BC, Kings Aegeis IV and Cleomenes III saw the crisis. They knew Sparta needed more citizens, more land equality. They tried to cancel debts, redistribute land, and restore the old discipline. These were radical measures for their time, but they faced bitter opposition from the wealthy elite. Those who had benefited from the system's flaws fought back. Both reformers met tragic ends, their efforts largely thwarted. This political paralysis was a critical factor in Sparta's decline. The leadership could not or would not make the hard choices. They failed to address the shrinking citizen body. They failed to solve the underlying economic weaknesses. They could not adapt their military after Leuctra. While other states evolved, Sparta remained a relic. Its unique constitution, once its strength, became an iron cage, a cage that prevented survival in a new, more dynamic world. As Sparta weakened from within, new powers rose outside. To the north, Macedon under Philip II was growing strong. Philip was a master strategist and diplomat. He united Greece, often by force or threat of force. Sparta, diminished and isolated, could offer little resistance. They famously refused to join Philip's Corinthian League, but they were too weak to challenge Macedonian dominance. Alexander the Great continued his father's work, largely ignoring Sparta. Then came the Romans, the new superpower of the Mediterranean. Rome expanded eastwards, absorbing the Greek states one by one. Sparta, by now a minor player, tried to maintain some independence. There were brief moments of defiance, flashes of the old spirit, but ultimately they were no match for Roman legions. By the 2nd century BC, Sparta was effectively under Roman control. It was incorporated into the Roman province of Achaia. Its political independence was completely extinguished. Sparta's story did not end there entirely. Under Roman rule, it became something of a living museum, a curiosity for wealthy Roman tourists. They came to see the strange, archaic Spartan customs. The famous agoge was even revived in a theatrical form, but this was a pale shadow of its former glory. The fierce, independent warrior state was gone forever. It was a memory, a legend, kept alive for entertainment. So why did Sparta really collapse? It was not one single cause, but a tragic combination. A shrinking citizen body, unable to replenish itself. An economy built on the oppression of a vast helot population, devastating military defeats that shattered its prestige, a political system that resisted change at all costs, and finally the rise of overwhelming external powers. Sparta's incredible strengths, its discipline, its military focus, its stability, ultimately became its fatal weaknesses, preventing it from adapting to a changing world. The very laws that made it unique also sealed its doom.